Good afternoon, everybody. Wow, that is a lot louder now that we have a new sound system. And thank you, Robert, for helping us get set up today. So welcome back to in-person Munch and Learn and the first Munch and Learn with our new AV system. Yay. Just a couple of notes, our Sweet 16 exhibit is now open to the public. So if you haven't had a chance, please feel free to enjoy it after this talk. We also have our new Mallory and Wurzburger artists. We have two, Chuck Johnson and Kate Roberts. Those are just right outside these doors. So please stop and look at those as well. And now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speaker for today, Shawna White. Shawna is a native Memphian. She graduated from University of Memphis with a degree in art therapy. And after working with Methodist Lavender, she made the transition to working with seniors. And then eventually she also then changed again to working in schools, teaching art, which she was doing until she decided to come join us here at the Dixon. Shawna is currently our colorcopia instructor, and she's also writing a book. So I'm sure you'll hear about that too. Thank you, Shawna. We're happy to have you talk to us.
Before I get started, I just want to say thank you to the Dixon for allowing me this opportunity to come and munch and learn with y'all. So because today is Munch and Learn, I wanted to start off, can y'all hear me okay? Talking about what does it mean to learn something. So your first challenge today was to tell me what does it mean to learn something. I'm just going to kind of read out a couple of these answers. It means to gain new insight or information. It means to come to know. There are many ways to do this and many levels of learning. It keeps the mind active and it prevents squeaky brain wheels. It means to tickle the brain. The reason I get up in the morning. To accept and assimilate information and knowledge, to enrich your life, to seek information, to constantly be open and not afraid to ask questions, learning, acquiring new knowledge or experiences that lead to new understandings. That sounds like a teacher. To make it become a part of who you are. So during the virtual year, I asked the kids this, what does it mean to learn something? I felt like during the virtual year, it was a year to try things differently. And so I wanted to know, what do the kids think? What does it mean to learn something? And here is an answer. I don't know, which is a pretty typical kid answer. I don't know. I don't think anyone knows what it means. There are many ways to learn things and people have different needs. Now, the second part of that question, I agree with. There are many ways to learn things and people have different needs. But this first part, I don't know, and I don't think anyone knows what it means to learn. That part's not true. This is the Bloom's taxonomy chart. If you're in education, you'll recognize this. And in 1956, Benjamin Bloom set out with a group of educators and psychologists to figure out what does learning mean. And they broke it up into these 6 different categories. So when I looked in general at all of the students' answers, they kind of fell into these 4 categories. It's a life skill. It's something that's done in school. It means to remember something or to understand information. And I'll tell you right now, if it means to remember something, I'm not doing very well because I don't remember so well anymore. So these are some examples of student statements that illustrate the different life skills versus something done in school. Learning means to find new things to help you get better in life. Or it means being able to understand what the teacher shows you. That's a pretty sad answer for me. The student just kind of thinks that information is downloaded into their brain. Remembering versus understanding. Remembering to find out something new and remember, Or to really learn something means that you explain it. You can explain it with simple words to someone who has no knowledge at all on the subject and make them understand what it is all about. Now, I'll say this is probably the answer that I thought of when I thought about learning and understanding until I started really doing a deep dive last year. These are my favorite student answers. You may have a favorite too. So just kind of show me by fingers which one is your favorite. 1, 2, 3, or 4. Number 1. Okay. Who doesn't love you get smarter? The thing I love about answers 2 and 3 is it shows some kind of development. These students understand that it's a progression. But number 4 is my favorite answer. And it says you have learned something if you are able to do something you couldn't do previously. And that's the part of that statement that makes it my favorite. If you couldn't do something, implies that you are making something. It's an active. So if we compare the student answers to that Bloom's taxonomy chart, you can see that their understanding of learning down there near the bottom of the chart, understanding and remembering. But what we need to do is get students near the top of this chart. We need to get them creating and evaluating and analyzing. And that's what I'm going to be talking with you today about. I'm going to be showing you 4 different projects that I did with students, and I'm going to be illustrating how each of those projects connected to the top of the pyramid. It's kind of interesting when we teach kids how to remember things, we teach them tools like mnemonics, but we don't teach students, we don't teach them tools for learning. But when we talk about learning with students, that's when they learn to learn. So 2 main thoughts about today's presentation: a life hack, using the habits that artists have to maximize learning. These habits are called the studio habits of mind. And the second one is that these opportunities can be created in the virtual classroom. We have a couple of questions we're going to answer. Here they are. What should students learn? Is it possible to be effective even when teaching remotely? And how does teaching remotely affect teaching practice, curriculum, and content? What do students want to learn? What is an authentic arts education? What are some of the projects we did last year? When I share the projects, I'll also be talking about the artists of inspiration and the assignment details. And then there's another challenge number 2. Where do we go next? So we start off today's talk by talking about what should students learn. These are the elements of art and the principles of design. These are the same things that I learned when I was in high school. Color wheels, value scales, 1 and 2 point perspective. And they're still the things that we teach in school. But I would argue that there's a better way to do it, and that's by teaching these studio habits of mind. These have kind of become popular lately, and they fall under the category of a TAB classroom. TAB stands for Teaching Artistic Behavior. And you can see that these are a little bit different. Instead of teaching the color wheel or how to draw a self-portrait, we're teaching how do you observe something? What does it mean to reflect on your work? What does it mean to express yourself? Can you develop your skills? Can you envision a new way or a new idea? Can you engage and persist? Our first artist we'll meet today is Miranda July, and she works with Harold Fletcher, and they put this book out, Learning to Love You More. There's a picture of her, top right. Oh, here's a little clicker, I think. There she is, right there. And I really like her because she is a conceptual artist. And I always talk about conceptual art early with the earlier in the school year with the students, because I think conceptual art is a great way to get students talking about ideas. Conceptual art is art that doesn't use traditional methods. It goes outside of the box. It's often performed in public or with the public. Often they include performance or installations, and they can even be web-based. So projects on the computer. This is a screenshot of her Learning to Love You More website. And there's a couple of different things to look at. The first thing is this list right here on the left-hand part of the screen. And you can see it says things like photograph a significant outfit, draw a picture of your friend's desires, take a photo from under the bed. There are these little artistic challenges that people are supposed to complete. On the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see, oops, technical issues. I don't know how to work my clicker. Okay, on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see people's names. Now, those are people that have submitted challenges. And then what you're looking at in the middle of the screen, that's a submitted challenge. And you'll see it's assignment 43, which says that this person is supposed to make an exhibit of the art in your parents' house. This person has submitted this photograph as evidence, and then they have submitted a description that says, this charred teapot was given to my mom by her grandma a long time ago. It was one of the few things salvaged from the remains of our house in the 1991 fire in the Oakland Hills. Since then, it has always been on display in our home. So, you know, I like this work of art because it requires you to think. And there are no right or wrong answers. All of these submissions are all different and unique in their own way. And I think a lot about the title of her work, Learning to Love You More, as just this network of people that are sharing ideas and thoughts and feelings. This website was bought by the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art in 2010. And I was on their website, and it says that this website is not, this display is not currently on display right now, which I think is really funny because you can go to the website anytime and look at it. It's just interesting how a museum can buy a website. This is one of my favorite submissions. It says you will find it. This assignment is make an inspirational banner, which I've done with students when we were in school together. And I was talking with somebody the other day, and she was like, oh, is that why there's all these little banners everywhere around the school? I was like, yeah. It's just kind of fun to go out and do things with the kids. So we talked about Miranda July and her conceptual art, and I led a value defining exercise with the students. What's important to you? What are you all about? And you can see student of inspiration over here on the right. This is Ezra, and Ezra says, I want to be positive. On the left, what you're looking at is the results of that discussion. I want to be positive. Well, what does that mean? What could we do to help you be positive? How could we spread positivity around the school and the classroom? And the idea we came up with were positivity cards. So that's what you see the students doing over here on the right, positivity cards. And for this project, I showed the kids how to make cards. We talked about, typography, how to make your letters straight. We talked about how to fold a card. We talked about, what you could write on the inside. I set aside class time for them to do this. And then when the positivity cards were done, then I distributed the cards. So this is, a classroom experience here, but this is how this project changed because of the pandemic. These are the results from the Positive Vibes Project 2020. So, they're outside of the classroom. This card is in a park on a bench. This card is on a gas station. This card is tucked into the candy aisle at Walgreens. This card is in a mailbox. So the instructional focus here is how to figure it out on your own. because we weren't in class together, I couldn't give them supplies. You got to figure out what you're going to use. We talked through as a team how to find your supplies. We talked through as a team time management strategies. And this was a big one for the kids. When they're in the classroom, you set aside time for them to do that. But when they're on their own, they really had trouble. When am I going to do this? And so I would have them do self-evaluations before the project. How long do you think it's going to take to do this? You know, what time of day are you going to do this? You know, I had a way that I would ask kids to plan it out before they actually sat down to do it. They had to take photographs of their workspace so I could see that everything was set up. We talked through as a team where to find some cool instructional videos. And then we also talked through as a team how they felt after doing this. Did they feel like they were more positive? So how this project changed because of virtual learning. Before, it was a classroom experience, and the teacher solves all of your thinking problems for you. After when we were in the virtual world, it was a real world experience. My job became to help them define the problems that they would face and then guide them to their own answers. So this is a book I read last year, Grasp by Sanjay Sharma. If we talk about what students should learn, he says, students learn best when they feel that they are learning something that is of value to them. I think it's important to give students the opportunity to make a difference in their world around them. And then reading this book also showed me that I could and should be talking to students about their ideas. Additionally, students should have the vocabulary for describing how to develop a process and how to evaluate the final product. So our next question is, what do students want to learn? These are answers to describe your dream school. This student says, a 3-story school, all the classes are on the first floor, the bedrooms are on the second floor, and there's an attic that all the students can paint or put colorful furniture in. The bathrooms are shiny, there are clean toilets, and there's a huge mirror of lights. I'm not sure what kind of school this young lady's going to. And I don't know what's going on in the bathrooms, but you know, she's got her priorities. This next statement, my dream school will be one that focuses more on mental health and does not have tests as the majority of the grades. And that's one I got a lot, no more tests. But this, a school that focuses more on mental health, I got that a lot too. The kids really are asking for some more help solving things that are going on in this world. These are some more of my favorite answers. Base lessons off of things that students really care about. A fun place where we work. Let the students decide how they want to learn and see what makes them comfortable to be able to learn. My dream school is a school of joy. I think the one I really like here is to base lessons off of things that students really care about. That goes back to that idea earlier, like students learn best when they think it's of value to them. I think one of the things I really thought about last year as I was designing lessons is authenticity. It's kind of a word that's bouncing around right now. And I was surprised when I was reading this book that they had a specific definition for authentic arts education. A traditional arts education is one that focuses on technical skills and artistic vocabulary, like those art elements and the principles. But an authentic art education focuses on conceptual skills, critical thinking, the experience and culture of the student, and meaningful real-world assignments. Additionally, an authentic art education shifts the focus from art making to learning. Because I couldn't use the traditional supplies or classroom last year, it really kind of forced me into working conceptually with the students. So what do students want to learn? If students could design their own curriculum, what would they want to learn? The assignment was called the Cordova Project, and students had to identify something that they thought should be implemented at a school and create a detailed plan of action. The studio habit in mind here is envision. What do you want to see at your school? What's the best part of coming to school? The Bloom's taxonomy here is to analyze, evaluate, and create. Our next artist of inspiration is Nick Cave. He is a performance artist, and the work we studied was his performance, The Let Go. It was a participatory art experience and installation performed in New York in 2018. So if you're not familiar with Nick Cave, he does this little image on the left is called a sound suit. And you can see that it's got buttons and embellishments. You know, there may even be bells on there, all of these found materials. And when he wears these suits and he dances around, it makes all of these little noises. And it's kind of fun because it's like sculpture in action. But the Let Go performance included a lot of these sound suits, and they were moving through this dance hall. And people were allowed to come in and dance with these moving sculptures. There was also this mylar curtain that kind of moved through the crowd and interacted with them. He had choirs come in and sing. And the reason why he did this performance is because he wanted people to have this community for a moment on the dance floor. And I picked out this work because we were in quarantine and because we couldn't be together. The students really understood there was a time and place to think about how people get together and what happens when people get together. And so we really had a good time breaking down the different parts of that Let Go project. So the steps to the Cordova Project, the first step was to analyze what are the different parts of the Let Go performance and what was the artist's concept. So we talked about, you know, the sculptures, we talked about the people, we talked about the music, and we talked about the artist's concept. And then we kind of flipped the coin a little. What would it mean if we recreated this performance at our school? What would be needed to do it? And then we stretched ourselves a little bit further with the studio habit in mind and vision, and create a plan of action. If you had something that was important to you and you wanted to see it at school, how would you do it? What is an art experience you would like to see? This is a screenshot from a Google form. And I used Google Forms a lot last year. You may be thinking to yourself, how do you get all these kids talking about things? Well, this is how. So before I would start a lesson, the students would have already done a Google form and they would have filled out their answers. And so in class, all I have to do is pull up that form and I have all of their student remarks. When I already have a lot of student remarks, students are more likely to comment on other students' remarks. But if I just say, who's got a question? Who's got a remark about that? Wouldn't really get a lot of answers. The two results you're looking at specifically, first one is where would we do this? Where would we do this performance? And you can see there's a lot of different choices and there are no right answers. What they do have to do though, is they have to justify their answer. So some examples are, this event should be held in the gym because social distancing might be in effect. And I have to reflect back to the students. This is what critical thinking means. You make a decision and then you have to justify your answer. This event should be around Halloween so people can wear their costumes. This event should be at the end of the day. It would allow for more participation. And having the event at the end of the day would let people know when the event was over. So this is just one small snapshot of one of the many decisions that we have to make in recreating this at our school. So I have next for you a student example of the project that they would like to see at school. It is called The Hands of Us. Hands of Us is a large-scale collaborative art project meant to bring the students of Cordova together. This event was planned by a particularly good-looking Cordova student for the other Cordova students. I do want to say here that I just copied and pasted his PowerPoint right in my PowerPoint, and I did not edit it. The mistakes are his. I'll let him have his mistakes. But this is what was turned in. This is what they were graded on. They were graded on this PowerPoint that that showed their thinking process and all of the different things that they did. This is his artist of inspiration, which was himself. The whole purpose of this project is to create a sense of community. The main message is that even with everything going on in the world, we all are here. We are the Hands of Us. Making this at school will help everyone feel connected when it can feel quite the opposite. So this is his reason for doing it. Where and when this project can be done, whenever, but it will have to take course over a week or so. Due to the messiness of the project, it will take place in the entrance to the school because that's where it can be seen. And again, I think he's doing a really good job of thinking through, you know, all of his decisions. He goes on here to describe the type of paint that should be used, even how much it will cost, which I thought was a really good detail. We will need to get permission from the administration of Cordova, as well as some money. Around $500 would be enough. We need to ask to use a part of the entrance for this and get the maintenance crew on board because it will be messy. Lastly, we will need something to look after this project to make sure everything goes correctly. Here's his detailed plan of action, the different steps that should be done to do this project. Cleanup may be simple, but it might take a while. He goes on to describe exactly how cleanup should happen. Spotless. Yes, he's very, very clever. That's all, folks. I thought this was a really great project, and I was surprised by the different projects that were submitted. There was one student who described a talking bench, and she said, if you're feeling lonely, you can go sit on the bench and people will know to come and sit with you. I think that would work in a cafeteria. You could have one table that would be a talking table and random people could sit there. There was one student who wanted a sticky note wall. The project will be done around lunchtime. His idea was he could stand at a table with some sticky notes and have people just talk to him. How did the pandemic affect you? And then he was going to make a display of their sticky notes. A couple of students wanted an art field day, a fun day of art projects outside. And this one was really cool. It was called Positive Peers. It was a mental health day. Groups of students would work together to have fun and get mental health information. What I thought was neat about these projects is each one of them went through those different steps. What will cleanup look like? Who do you need to get permission from? What supplies will you need? And why will you do this? Our next artist of inspiration is conceptual artist Joanne Petit-Ferrer. The work we studied, her hair sculptures, and this is her. She is the lady on the right, and she's doing this hair sculpture. The studio habit of mind for this project is called Develop Skills. It's real easy to look at this and go, how did she do that? But it was fun. It was fun talking with the kids about how long do you think this takes? You know, what kind of materials does she use? What kind of skills does she need to be able to make these hair sculptures? And so when we had fun breaking down all the different parts of her process, I asked the kids to document a process in their life. Things they had to do, they had to create a PowerPoint or a video. I had lots of videos too. Students must include information about materials, tools, skills that you have to do this, and indicators of quality. How do you know that it's good? This is somebody that's showing us how to make a 3D paper snowflake. Projects that I didn't include, there was a young lady that made a hot Cheeto burrito. And then she showed a video of her eating it, and she said, good, that's how you know it's quality. There was also a video on a girl who crushed up some Doritos and made some mozzarella sticks with them. But I'll show you the ones that are more art related. The image on the top left, that is a digital drawing. So she submitted a video and she narrated her drawing this. So if anybody was interested in learning how to digital draw, that would be a resource video. The gloves in the middle, that's a young man showing us how to make customized football gloves. That was a PowerPoint. The jeans on the bottom, those two joint jeans, that was a video. I got to see somebody sewing on a sewing machine. The images in the image in the middle of the shoes, that's somebody showing us how to customize shoes. And that was a PowerPoint. And then the image on the bottom left, that was a video. She was showing us how to make candles. And these were so much fun. So what I did was, when they turned in their work, I created a place where we could share each other's work, and kids had to present these in class. And that was a lot of fun because you had a lot of questions about how did you do that? Or, tell me more about that. And it was also kind of fun too, because I got to meet a lot of families, like the young lady that made the candle. Like I got to meet her mom because she was, doing some hot stuff over the stove. So it was kind of fun. Oh, and I do want to say here, what I graded on for this project was their documentation of their process. So they were to come up with their own quality indicators. How do you know it's good? But I did not grade them on their final product. I graded them on how well did you document your process. This is our next artist of inspiration. Her name is Chang. The work we studied here, kissing, crying, and freaking out in public. So that's an image of the artist there. She's doing some spray painting, and her artwork is there on the bottom right. It's a sign in Hong Kong. It says, "This is a good place to freak out." And then what we can't read are some resources for mental health that's on the sign. So she's one of my favorite artists. I consider her like a public performance artist. But she kind of falls under that conceptual artist as well. And we used her as inspiration. So, where Candy Chang wants us to be aware of different things, she goes out into the public and she wants people to be aware of things. We use that as inspiration. So the challenge here was to create an awareness campaign. So students had to identify something that was important to them and then create an awareness campaign and get their message out there. The official challenge was at least 10 people outside of school and your family must see it. So what we're looking at there on the right is a YouTube video, Don't Drink and Drive. Kind of was a funny little video, and we all watched it in class. Here are some more submissions. So top left, Black Lives Matter, that is a TikTok video. And let me tell you, I learned so much last year because these kids are submitting all of these different things, and I've got to figure out how to make them accessible to everyone. So this was a TikTok video. He did a drawing. He recorded himself narrating his thoughts and feelings and how the little drawing came together, and posted it on TikTok. This yard sign, "It's okay to get help," he put out, obviously in his front yard. The next one is a text message Chang. The one on the right, capital punishment, was an Instagram story. You can see here, she's proving that a certain number of people saw her work because she circled the number of views that it got. Bottom right hand was a car. He made a sign to put on the car, put down your cell phone and drive. And I asked him, I said, well, did you drive the car or did your mom drive the car? And he said his mom drove the car. And I said, your mom loves you. I don't know if I'd let you put a sign on my car and drive around. This one in the bottom middle is a cell phone with a line drawn through it. He's also thinking about cell phones and how we need to put our cell phones down. And he was so amazed. He said it took him a while to draw this. And he said people in his neighborhood kept stopping and asking him what he was doing. So he got to explain it. So he felt like that the power of the work was in him explaining it and not necessarily the drawing. And then the young lady on the bottom left, that is a stop violence sign. And she took a photo of herself and her sign and did a text message like to her friends and stuff. So, you know, different platforms, which one is the most effective? How do you know it's the most effective? Which ones, you know, is there a difference between being effective, the number of people seeing your work and the number of people that will actually do the thing that you feel is important? All questions, all things we discussed in school. Again, this is not their final product. Their final product is a PowerPoint, and they had to go through and talk about how they planned it, the results of their work. They had to list the pros and cons of their specific platform. So these are the questions we asked today, and hopefully we answered them. What should students learn? What do students want to learn? What is an authentic arts education? What are some of the projects we did last year? And where do we go next? Challenge number 2 is coming up, y'all. My dream school. So these are images from that value defining exercise where kids had to say what's important to them or what they wanted. And I guess if I were to sum up my dream school, I want to use the words of one of my students. And she said, I literally learned so much in your class. I wasn't even interested in art. I haven't been in art since the 4th grade. I used to think art was about nothing but colors, drawings, paintings, and sketches. Literally, I never liked art because the teachers would get mad because I couldn't paint or draw, LOL. They never told me about the real art. You taught me about different artists and different artworks. This year, I learned that art could be music, literature, dance, and languages. I love that she capitalized every letter of arts. And I love how she used the word languages in there too, as being art. Art is about human creativity and social life. I never knew that until this year. And I think when I look back over my year of teaching virtually, I hope what I gave the kids is a feeling that art is the thing that connects us. And I do want to give that to students. I want to see that being taught in school. I want them to know that they have a way of making that come true. If you thought any of the books I thought was interesting today, I did bring them. They're on the table back there. You're more than welcome to look through them. Before you go, there's a couple of extra ones too. And challenge number 2, where do we go next? I'm going to pass out some index cards. Laura, will you do that for me? And just tell me that when we played this in school, I called this the idea basket, and everyone kind of had to put their idea in the basket. But tell me an idea of a next step. Tell me a possible resource or contact. You know, suggest a possible source of funding. Please include your email so I know how to get in touch with you. And thank you so much for your attention today. I enjoyed being with y'all.
Does anybody have any questions for Shawna?
Nick Cave's the New York Magazine, where was that presentation done? That show
That show is called The Let Go, it's the Armory.
in New York City.
Okay.
Thank you.
He actually, what's interesting about that story is he has redone it again after the quarantine.
Oh,
He decided to bring that back.
yeah, terrific.
Yeah,
I enjoyed the presentation.
thank you so
Yeah,
much.
it's really interesting. The dynamics behind opening the child's mind like that.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions?
All right, now you're on
Oh.
the steps.
Karen?
I have a question about the challenge. So are we writing down the next, what is the next step of what? What is the next?
Where should I go from here? Because what I see is schools have just gone back to the way that they've always had. So how can we fix that?
All right, thank you, Shawna, for coming and speaking with us today. We appreciated hearing about arts education and what's going on there. So thank you, everybody, for coming, and have a good day.